It's spooky time. I have screamed. I've almost wet myself. I've had my neighbors almost call the police because they thought somebody was dying inside the house. These are the best of the best. Terrifying experiences in virtual reality. And that's what I want to talk about today, are the 5 top scary experiences from my point of view in virtual reality right now in 2024. I want to spread the love like a terrifying virus from like The Last of Us. Oh, we need The Last of Us in VR. I mean, come on. That would be like the top of the list right there, wouldn't it? Okay, I digress. I want to spread the love for virtual reality like a virus to you, and I hope that this will inspire you to try some of these experiences out. And these are pcvr games. Now, I might do a separate video coming up on standalone, like the Quest series of headsets and what games can be played on there that are truly terrifying. But right now, I want to focus on pcvr. I'm Jolly Julian, and it's time to virtual our terrifying reality. All right, let's dive in. I'm going to go in reverse order, starting with number 5, Walking Dead Saints and Sinners, and its sequel, Chapter 2. Now, there's not a lot I can say about Walking Dead Saints and Sinners that hasn't already been said, but I will just say that this is an experience that I've played all the way through twice from beginning to end. And I don't tend to play single-player experiences more than once, if I finish them at all, if they're really long. And Walking Dead Saints and Sinners is a nice long experience, but it is one that pulled me in, had me terrified a bunch of times. The mechanics of the game are unparalleled. The physics, the feeling of being able to grab a zombie and stab him in the head with your knife, it's so satisfying. I'm not a serial killer, I promise I'm not a serial killer. I would only do this to zombies. Oh, I'm not an anti-zombieite either, though. I mean, zombies are people too. They were. I don't know. Anyway, Walking Dead Saints and Sinners, the physics are incredible. The gameplay is great. The story is great. The graphics, the kind of cartoony but realistic feel of it, just incredibly immersive. I can't recommend Walking Dead Saints and Sinners highly enough. Number 4 on the list. Now, this is one that I think is going to surprise an awful lot of people, and it kind of surprised me a little bit when it ended up on my list, but it surprised me even a little bit more that I hadn't considered it earlier, because it is truly one of the most terrifying experiences I've had in virtual reality, and that is Westworld Awakening. This is an incredible game. It's my personal favorite game that's come out from Survios, a game studio that has been a little bit hit or miss, including releasing a Walking Dead game that wasn't nearly as good as Walking Dead Saints and Sinners. They really created an experience that is incredibly immersive, ties in very nicely with the source material of the movie Westworld, but more importantly, the TV series from HBO that came out a few years back. And the feeling of being in positions where you don't have control over what's happening around you, I think, is what they nailed here so well. This is not a game where you're fighting your way through stuff like Walking Dead Saints and Sinners, where you got guns and machetes and knives and bow and arrow and all that stuff. Here, oftentimes, most of the time, in fact, you don't have a weapon at all of any kind, and all you're doing is trying to evade the things that are coming after you. And man, there were many times when I found myself holding my breath while playing this game because I was worried that the other characters in the game would hear me breathing. I felt so connected to the main character in this game of Kate. This is a game that made me feel a lot of things that I have not quite felt the same way in virtual reality. Westworld Awakening, it'll give you this great sense of being a character that at sometimes is very in control of her existence and in control of her environment and in control of herself, and at other times all of that control is taken away from you, and the way that makes you feel is truly terrifying. Number 3 of the most terrifying pcvr experiences is phasmophobia. Now, this is a classic. My experience playing this for the first time in virtual reality. Now, this is available to play both flat screen and in virtual reality. I have only played it in virtual reality, and I'm very glad, because my first experience, I kid you not, I played it with a couple of friends of mine that are in different parts of the country. We got on, we played together at the same time, and I was the only one playing in virtual reality, and I was petrified. I screamed like a little girl a number of times. I know this because my friends mocked me incessantly about this in a very fun way. for days and weeks afterward. Phasmophobia is a ghost hunting game where you play part of a ghost hunting team. You have to go in, you have to bring in the right equipment. You're trying to find and identify a specific ghost in different locations. And the goal is to try to identify what type of ghost it is by finding usually 3 different types of evidence using the gear and equipment that you bring in with you. It's an incredible game that you can play for hours, days, weeks, and you continue learning more and more as you go. You start becoming a better ghost hunter as you play this game. And there's a lot to be said for that kind of progression in a game like this. It's not one that has a set storyline. Each time you're choosing kind of what location you want to go to. It's going to be a randomly chosen ghost between, I don't know, I feel like they have like 18 or 20 ghosts almost in the game. I don't know, I haven't counted them, but there's a bunch. So the game is never the same twice. So even though there isn't an overarching storyline, you're constantly growing with this game, wanting to get better at your ability as a ghost hunter. I could see this being a training ground for actual professional ghost hunters out there. If those are real. You know what I mean? If you're a real ghost hunter, I apologize. And please don't sick any ghosts on me in the middle of the night. I didn't mean any of it. It's okay. Okay, moving on. All right, we're down to number 2 of the top 5 here. Number 2, I'm going to kind of cheat here. And I'm going to have to say number 2 is the combination of Resident Evil 7 and Resident Evil 8. There are a lot of great Resident Evil games, and Resident Evil 4 I've heard is extremely good as well, especially on the Quest. It has a standalone version that is supposedly incredibly good. It's wonderful on the PlayStation and on the PC, but I've never played it, so I can't speak to Resident Evil 4 specifically, but it's one that's on my list to do. But I have played Resident Evil 7 and part of Resident Evil 8. I'm only part way into Resident Evil 8, and I think I'm going to be maybe sharing some of that on this channel too. So subscribe if you want to see me scared crapless. I'm going to keep this as clean as I can, but you know what I mean. By Resident Evil 8, because already it's terrifying, and I'm looking forward to continuing that for your amusement and my terror. I hope you're happy with yourself. Resident Evil 7 and Resident Evil 8, these are obviously games that have existed in regular gaming on the PC for a while. Resident Evil 7 at least for a few years. Resident Evil 8 I think came out last year, maybe a little bit longer ago than that. But both of these games, with the mods that are available, transforming it into virtual reality is unparalleled. The design of the spaces, I could just spend hours walking around in these spaces, especially in Resident Evil 8, inside this giant castle or mansion or whatever. The rooms are opulent. The locations have incredible sound design and feel, and they're just terrifying in their own right, and that's before anything really bad comes and chases you. The storyline is very engaging. The one little slight downside, which I wouldn't even consider necessarily a complete downside, is that it is a very linear story. It's not a complete open world where you just go anywhere you want anytime. You can go different places, but you in order to finish the story, you're going to have to kind of go down this linear path. But the good thing about that is it never gets dull. You never really get completely lost. You're always being slightly moved in the right direction. And it keeps the story very good. The storytelling, it's very emotional, it's very scary, and it's very engaging. Resident Evil 7 and Resident Evil 8. Resident Evil 7 I played all the way through. I was scared the entire time. Thoroughly enjoyed it. And Resident Evil 8, I'm already enjoying at least as much as Resident Evil 7, maybe even a little bit more. And that brings me to my number 1 most terrifying virtual reality experience I've ever had. There was very little question when I started making this list that this was going to be number 1, because it's the one I remember the most. It's the one that's terrified me the most. It's the one I tell people about the most, and that is Alien Isolation. Yes, Alien Isolation. I know it's like a 10-year-old game. I don't know. I think it's been around about like 10 years. Came out on flat screen just for regular computers, and people were terrified playing it on their computers. Now imagine having a VR headset on your face. You're immersed completely in that world. Everything is life-size, in 3 dimension, the scale of it. The first time you come across an alien xenomorph, and it is right in front of you, and it is 10 feet tall, it's freaking terrifying. I'm not gonna lie. It's the one time that I can remember in virtual reality of actually falling down on my knees and grabbing my mouth to be quiet. And you can't really kill it. I mean, yeah, you've got some weapons. You got a flamethrower occasionally. You've got guns and stuff like that you can find. But man, that thing is just relentless. It keeps coming. You can scare it away for a little while, but it's going to find you. That's the thing. Is you go through this game knowing that thing is going to find you, and when it does, it's going to open its mouth, and that second jaw is going to come out and it's going to hit you in the face. This is my most treasured memory of playing this game. Is the first time that I discovered that in hiding from this xenomorph, I could climb into a locker in one of the rooms. I could open a locker, storage locker, climb in it and close it. And it has those little air slats that you could look through. And I climbed into one of these because the alien was stalking outside the room. I get in there, I'm looking through those slats and I'm being real quiet. And that alien came into the room and I saw it walk in front of those slats. And just as I think I'm safe, it stops right in front of the locker, turns its head and looked right at me through those slats, tore open the door, opened its mouth, and that second jaw came right out and smacked me in the face. And I kid you not, I screamed. I was alone in the house. I screamed bloody murder, tore the headset off, threw it down on the floor, and had to breathe for a couple of minutes before I went back in there. Now, that does not happen to me. I don't scare easily, in VR or out of VR. And that one got me. And I will forever love that game for it. The amount of appreciation I have for that experience will never be paralleled. And believe me, I'm going to try again because I'm going to play through that game again. I played all the way through it. It's a nice long game too. You go through a lot of stages. It feels very authentic to the movie. If you've ever seen any of the movies, it feels like you're on the Nostromo or a spacecraft like that. When you end up on the planet, it feels like you're in that environment. There's even an entire sequence there that's kind of almost lifted directly from the movie, with the alien eggs and the atmospheric fog and atmospheric elements that they have on the planet. If you've played Alien Isolation on flat screen, you haven't really played it. Great game on flat screen, I'm sure. Great game. You have not truly played it until you've played it in life-size, 3D, encompassing your entire view in glorious virtual reality using what's called the Mother mod, which is a great nod to the original Alien movie. If you've ever seen it, you know what Mother means from that. And it's the Mother mod. Get that installed. It's a super easy install, and you can be in Alien Isolation playing in VR yourself. So those are my top 5 most terrifying, scary, horror-ish experiences that I love to play around Halloween. I'm going to be replaying some of those and sharing those on this channel as well, so be sure you subscribe if you'd like to check those out. If you liked this video, please like it. Please comment below and let me know, what have I missed here? What is not on this list of 5 that you feel absolutely should be on there? There were other games, a couple of honorable mentions I could have put on here. Subnautica is one of them. That Leviathan, when you go out into the deep water and that Leviathan comes after you for the first time, truly, truly terrifying. Forewarned is another great one that is much like Phasmophobia, but set kind of in an Egyptian kind of archaeological dig situation. Instead of hunting for ghosts, you're hunting for these Egyptian spirits. Really quite a terrifying game as well. Propagation VR is another great one. Propagation VR, Paradise Hotel. There are so many of them. But if there are any that I missed, please comment below and let me know. I hope you'll come back and watch the next videos. Whew, I'm not going to lie, I got a little stirred up here just talking about these. I'm a little terrified and excited. I can't wait to get back into them. I think Westworld is going to be the first one I pop into. Alien Isolation for sure. Resident Evil 8 for sure to finish that. Lots of things coming. So I hope you'll enjoy this Halloween season ride with me on the Jolly Julian Let's Virtual Our Reality channel. So with that, have a great Halloween season, and I'll catch you on the next video. Boo! Scared you.